Hello, thank you for taking a moment to watch this video. And on this training, we're going to be talking about an important thing to consider when you are configuring your PhoneBurner account if you are managing an organization that will be using PhoneBurner. So if you have multiple people that will be using PhoneBurner, we need to consider this. If you're using PhoneBurner all by yourself, nobody else is going to be using PhoneBurner, you don't necessarily need to watch this video. But if you are installing PhoneBurner, the extension for PhoneBurner in your Zoho environment, and you plan on having multiple people using PhoneBurner so they can call through their calls at 60 to 80 dials per hour, then you need to pay attention on this training. So let's get into the training. When you log into your PhoneBurner account and you're on the team section, you're going to see this gear over on the right-hand side, and we're going to go to settings. In the settings, you're going to see this access mode option. Networked versus standalone. You've got two options, networked, standalone. So within the PhoneBurner environment, we have two different ways that you can configure your account. The default option is standalone. What that means is that each of your seats, each of the accounts that you create, they will maintain and manage their own database of contacts. This comes in really handy for organizations that need to keep data separated, so nobody sees anything that they're not supposed to see. And then the networked option allows you to configure your account so that everybody can see all of the data. Comes in really handy when you're working with organizations that really need to be more collaborative. Now, I do understand that when you are working from Zoho, Zoho is technically your CRM. But when you initiate a dial session from Zoho to PhoneBurner, those records are going to be created in PhoneBurner. And you need to consider how that data is going to be managed. If you need to make sure that that data is separated, that somebody can't log into PhoneBurner and see somebody else's data, then you need to keep this set as standalone. If it doesn't matter if your team members see somebody else's data when they log into their PhoneBurner account, then you can switch to networked, and I would recommend that you do that. And the reason why I would recommend that you switch to networked is in maintaining custom fields. So let's jump over to our contact settings, go to custom fields. So here you'll notice I'm on standalone, and every one of my fields is shared. What that means is everybody on my team sees these custom fields. And when they initiate a dial session, the contacts they are calling or the records they are calling, the data from those records will be put into these custom fields. So we have a standard set of fields across the entire organization. However, if I were to stop sharing any of these custom fields, my team members would no longer have access to these custom fields. That doesn't mean those fields don't exist on Zoho, though. And when they initiate a dial session from the Zoho environment, they will not have access to the fields that you stopped sharing with them. And so PhoneBurner will have to create a version of that field that is unique to that user. And then, of course, if you later on share that custom field from your PhoneBurner account to the team, they will actually see two versions of that same custom field. It can make their views very messy. So it's important, if you're going to keep the data separated in Zoho and PhoneBurner, that you always share the custom fields across your entire organization. Do not stop sharing any custom fields, even if it's a field that they have no reason to see when they're in a dial session making calls through PhoneBurner. Just move those fields to the bottom of the list. Now, of course, if you're networked, you're sharing one database on the PhoneBurner system, and everybody sees and uses the same custom fields regardless. There's no need to share it because everybody sees the same fields. It can be a lot simpler to manage the data if you're networked. Now, another thing to consider when you're thinking of networked versus standalone is the data, the contact records, the lead records. If those records in Zoho are going to be transferred from one user to another, you may want to make sure that all of the note history from any specific record is visible to all users making calls when they're in a dial session. And if it's standalone, even though it's the same record in Zoho, each user will have just one version of that record on PhoneBurner. So you can end up with what could be duplicated records across your PhoneBurner account because you're not doing any sharing of contacts within the phone burner environment. So those are two things that you need to keep in mind when you're considering how to configure your phone burner account in relationship to your Zoho data. Custom fields. It's a lot easier to manage and maintain custom fields if you're networked. If data, contacts, leads will be transferred or worked by multiple people in Zoho, then it's probably better to set it up as networked in phone burner. So that way when phone burner calls a contact, in this case Kyle, doesn't matter which user calls that contact in Zoho, it'll always be the same Kyle in phone burner with all the same notes. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. If you have questions about this, make sure you discuss that with your onboarding specialist. They'll be able to help guide you through what is the best option for you. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and happy dialing.